Have you ever felt stuck in an endless loop, working a 9-to-5 job, paying off credit card debt, waiting for payday, yet never feeling like it's enough? In America, they call this the American dream, but for many, it feels more like a golden cage. You have the job, the house, the car, yet you lack freedom, and true happiness seems out of reach. Naval Ravikant, one of Silicon Valley's most famous investors and thinkers, once said, "Wealth is freedom." True wealth isn't just about having money, it's about living life on your own terms, with peace of mind and genuine joy. In this video, I'll share the most powerful lessons from the Almanack of Naval Ravikant, so you can not only learn how to build lasting wealth, but also discover happiness along the way. And before we dive in, don't forget to hit like and follow this channel so you won't miss any of the best book summaries that help you create both wealth and happiness for yourself. Part 1. The Wealth Mindset. Naval Ravikant has a very clear perspective. Wealth isn't about making a lot of money in the short term, it's about building long-term freedom. In America, many people still think wealth means having a six-figure salary, driving a Tesla, or living in a big suburban home. But Naval stresses that if you wake up every morning feeling anxious, work 60 to 70 hours a week, or live under constant debt pressure, that's not wealth. It's just a modern form of slavery wrapped in something shiny. Naval makes a sharp distinction between wealth and money. Money is simply a tool of exchange. Wealth, as he defines it, is an asset that keeps generating value even when you're not working. It could be stocks, real estate, a business you own, or even a piece of technology you built that keeps earning income. Wealth means having the freedom to live the way you want without trading away your entire lifetime for a paycheck. Look around and you'll see the contrast clearly. A typical American might work 40 years at a company, build up their 401k, and hope to retire safely at 65. Meanwhile, some entrepreneurs or smart investors reach financial freedom by 35 or 40. Not because they're smarter, but because they understood the true nature of wealth, creating systems and assets that work for them. Naval once said, "You're not going to get rich renting out your time." In other words, if you only rely on selling your time for a salary, you'll never be truly free. The only path is to learn how to build, invest in, and own things that can grow in value over time. In short, Naval's first lesson is this: escape the mindset of working more to earn more. Instead, learn to create value that multiplies, value that's no longer tied to the limits of your time and labor. Only then can you truly reach real wealth. Part 2. Leveraging power. Leverage. Naval believes that one of the greatest secrets to building wealth is leverage. If all you have are 2 hands and 24 hours in a day, there's only so far you can go. But once you understand how to use leverage, you can multiply your impact 10-fold, 100-fold, or even more. He breaks leverage down into 3 main types. The first is capital, money. When you have money, you can invest it in things that keep generating returns even while you sleep. That's why wealthy people in America don't just rely on their salaries, they build portfolios of stocks, index funds, and real estate. The second type is labor, hiring other people to work for you. A small business owner who employs staff or a startup founder who builds a team is extending their capabilities through the efforts of others. But most importantly, Naval emphasizes the newest form of leverage in our era, technology and media, or what he calls code and content. This kind of leverage requires no one's permission. A single line of code can serve millions of people, yet you only write it once. A YouTube video, a podcast, or even a tweet can reach millions around the world at no extra cost. In the internet age, anyone with a laptop and Wi-Fi can create value and amplify it globally. If you live in America, you see this every day. A programmer in Silicon Valley builds software and sells it to millions instead of working a 9-to-5 job. An influencer on Instagram can earn more than a doctor, not because they work harder, but because they've mastered the leverage of media and social platforms to scale their personal value thousands of times over. Naval summed it up perfectly. Fortunes require leverage. Business leverage comes from capital, people, and products with no marginal cost of replication. In other words, true wealth comes from using leverage, money, people, and most importantly, products that can be infinitely replicated at zero extra cost. Simply put, you can work hard your whole life and still stress about paying bills. Or you can find ways to let an idea, a product, or a system work for you even while you sleep. That's when you truly enter the game of wealth. Part 3. Specialized knowledge and unique skills. Naval once said, "Specific knowledge is found much more by pursuing your genuine curiosity and passion than by following what is hot right now." In other words, true expertise comes from following your real curiosity and passion, not from chasing trends. This idea sounds simple, but it's actually the secret weapon of those who build lasting wealth. Naval emphasizes that specific knowledge isn't something you pick up in a standard classroom or through an MBA program. It's usually a unique mix of your passions, natural talents, and hands-on experience, something only you can truly bring to the table. For example, a software engineer in San Francisco doesn't just learn coding from school. They spend thousands of hours tinkering, building side projects, and testing out ideas. Or a YouTuber in New York doesn't just learn how to shoot videos. They master storytelling, understand audience behavior, and know how to use the right platforms to spread their message. These are skills you can't just copy-paste, and they're very hard to replace with AI or cheap labor. Naval also points out that specialized knowledge is often played rather than studied, meaning it feels natural and even fun for you, while others find it difficult or boring. One person might stay up all night happily writing a blog post. Another might dive deep into stock market data on Robinhood or Fidelity, searching for new investment strategies. What excites you is often the biggest clue to your own specialized knowledge. And in America, this is easy to see. A truly skilled programmer might earn 10 times more than the average engineer, not because they studied more, but because they have that unique something the market desperately needs. A creative TikTok artist can turn their passion into a six-figure income, simply because they know how to turn their personal flair into value that audiences can't ignore. Naval's point is clear. Invest in building your specialized knowledge. That's the foundation that makes leverage, what we discussed earlier, truly powerful. Leverage only works when paired with a skill that nobody else can easily replace. Once you discover your unique skill, you no longer compete by hours worked or by chasing trends. You step into a game where you alone dominate. Part 4. Accountability and Trust. Naval Ravikant has a very unconventional view. If you want extraordinary rewards in life, you must be willing to take personal accountability. It sounds simple, but this is the very thing most people avoid. Ordinary people prefer to work in groups, hide within the crowd, and make sure that if something goes wrong, no one can single them out. But great entrepreneurs, founders, and successful investors do the opposite. They publicly attach their name and reputation to their decisions and their creations. Naval puts it this way: society will reward you most generously if you're willing to be accountable. When you put your name behind a company, a brand, or an idea, you not only create trust, you also open the door to outsized rewards. In America, you see this clearly. Steve Jobs wasn't just the person running Apple. He became the soul of the company, the reason customers believed in it. Elon Musk doesn't just build Tesla and SpaceX. He is the symbol of trust for investors, even though that also means he takes on massive criticism and pressure. On the other hand, if you only want to stay safe and anonymous, you'll never receive rewards proportional to the risks you're willing to bear. Even in everyday life, this principle shows up. On LinkedIn or Twitter, many people build personal brands by sharing knowledge and opinions, putting their own face and name behind them. Later, when they launch a startup or a service, customers are eager to trust them because they already recognize the credibility behind the name. That's accountability in action, attaching your name to the value you deliver. In the end, accountability isn't a burden, it's an invisible form of leverage. The more responsibility you're willing to take on, the greater the trust people place in you, and the greater the rewards that come back your way. Part 5. Happiness as a skill. Naval Ravikant has a perspective that surprises many Americans. Happiness isn't a destination, it's a skill. Just like learning to code, picking up a new language, or training at the gym, happiness is something you can practice and improve every day. In American society, many people believe happiness comes from a life checklist. A suburban home with a 2-car garage, a 6-figure salary, a well-stocked 401k, and a yearly vacation to Hawaii. But the truth is, plenty of people achieve all of that and still feel empty inside. Naval points out, if you don't learn how to be happy right now, then no matter how much more you achieve, you'll only multiply your dissatisfaction. According to him, happiness doesn't come from having more, but from wanting less. It's the ability to quiet your mind, to stop comparing yourself to colleagues, neighbors, or people you follow on Instagram. Naval often emphasizes meditation, mindfulness, and repackaging unnecessary desires. Think of the typical American hustle lifestyle: Starbucks in the morning, work emails late at night, and weekends spent stressing over credit card bills. Naval calls this the endless loop of desire. But when you treat happiness as a skill, you realize contentment doesn't need to be bought. It can be trained through daily habits, deep breathing, walking, meditating, journaling, or simply spending time with family without checking your phone. The real question isn't, how can I get more? But rather, what can I let go of so I feel lighter and freer? Once you shift your perspective, you see that happiness doesn't conflict with wealth. In fact, it's the foundation that allows you to fully enjoy the rewards that wealth brings. Part 6. The long game. Wealth, not money or status. Naval Ravikant reminds us, don't confuse money, wealth, and status. Money is just numbers in your Chase or PayPal account, a tool of exchange. Status is social ranking, the game of who's above who, fancy cars, job titles, follower counts. But wealth is true freedom. It's the assets that keep creating value even while you sleep. Company equity, rental real estate, or even a YouTube channel that still generates ad revenue while you're on vacation with your family. Naval calls this the long game, and the principle is simple. Play long-term games with long-term people. That means invest, build, and create things that grow more valuable over time, like the compounding interest in a 401k, or a podcast that grows into a trusted brand with every episode. Take this example. A software engineer in Seattle starts investing in the S&P 500 at age 25, putting in a few $100s each month. His friend, the same age, jumps in and out of meme stocks on Robinhood, winning some, losing some, glued to every red and green candlestick. 20 years later, the first one is usually sitting comfortably on millions, while the second is still trying to recover losses. That's the difference between playing short-term games versus committing to the long game. Naval also points out that income structure often makes the biggest difference. An employee might earn $150,000 a year, but if they rely only on salary, they'll always need to keep working. Meanwhile, another person accepts a lower salary in exchange for equity in a startup, or builds an app for the App Store. If the startup survives or the app succeeds, the upside can be worth far more than years of salary. The difference comes from choosing ownership instead of just selling time. On the other hand, the status game, chasing a new car, a fancier title, or a bigger house than your peers, can rob you of freedom the fastest. You see it all the time on Instagram. People go into debt to buy the newest Tesla just to show off status, while that same debt strangles their ability to invest for the long term. Naval's formula is clear: specific knowledge plus accountability plus leverage plus time. Specialized skills like coding, content creation, or strong sales ability, combined with personal accountability, amplified through leverage, technology, capital, media, and then letting time do the compounding. That's how wealth is built. Not just a paycheck, not just a title. And in everyday American life, practicing this isn't complicated. Automatically set aside 10 to 15% of your income into a retirement fund, Learn a skill that can create passive income, build your personal brand on LinkedIn, or keep working on a side hustle with patience instead of quitting after a few months. Each small action, repeated consistently, compounds over time into real freedom. Wealth is what sustains you for life. Money is just numbers. Status is an illusion. The long game is the surest path to true freedom. Part 7. The final lesson. Freedom is the destination. If Naval Ravikant's entire philosophy could be summed up in one message, it would be this: true wealth is freedom. Freedom to work on what you want, with whom you want, when you want. Money is just a tool. Status is just an illusion. Freedom is the ultimate reward. Naval reminds us, no one is truly wealthy if they're still trapped in constant anxiety. You could drive an old Honda, sleep peacefully at night, be debt-free, and spend time playing with your kids. And that's worth much more than driving a luxury car while staying up at night worrying about loan payments. Americans often say time is money, but Naval reframes it. Time is life. That's why he places happiness on the same level as wealth. If you don't learn to appreciate the simple things, a quiet afternoon, a family dinner, the feeling of being healthy when you wake up, then you'll always be stuck in the endless game of ambition. Wealth may give you the means, but happiness makes life truly worth living. The ultimate message of the Almanack of Naval Ravikant is this: play long-term games with long-term people built on character and discipline. Accumulate the things that cannot be taken away: knowledge, reputation, meaningful relationships. And always remember, wealth is not the destination. It's simply the vehicle that allows you to live freely, fully, and happily. If you found the lessons from the Almanack of Naval Ravikant helpful, don't forget to like this video and follow the channel so you won't miss more of the best book summaries. Wishing you the best on your journey towards freedom and happiness.